In this video, we're going to learn how to use tables for the Apple Watch. So let's create a new project, single view application. We will call it vegetable lister. Hit next, create. Now let's include the Apple Watch target into this project. So go to File, New, Target, and then WatchKit app. Hit finish. Now let's go to our interface.storyboard. So in the objects, we will select a table and put it inside a storyboard. Now let's go into the assistant editor view. We will create an instance for the table in our interface controller.h file. So hold Control and drag the table into the controller.h file. We will call it table. Now before we begin writing any code, let's make a file for the table row controller. So click on your WatchKit extension folder and hit Command N. Under the iOS section, in the source option, click on Cocoa class and hit next. We will call it table row controller. Make sure it is a subclass of NSObject and click next. Now going back to our storyboard, we will select the table row controller inside the document outline view. Now under the identity inspector, we will set the class of the table row controller to the file we just created. So table row controller. Now in the attributes inspector, we will set the identity for this table row controller to be table row controller. An identifier is a name for the table row controller so that other places in the code can access it. Now let's put an image inside a table row. Image. Let's also put a label inside a storyboard. Now we will make instances of these objects inside our table row controller.h file. So click on image, hold Control and just drag it into the .h file. We will call it vegetable image. Same for the label, vegetable label. Now you see Xcode is giving us an error. It says unknown type WK interface image. This is because we haven't imported the watchkit.h file into this file. So let's do that. Import watchkit/watchkit.h, and you see the errors are gone. Now let's go back into our interface controller.h file. Over here, we will create two new properties of NSArray. So property strong non-atomic NSArray. and let's call it icons. For the second property, we will call it vegetable. Now we have created a property for the icons, but we don't have any icons yet. So let's include them. Go to File, click on Add Files, and let's add some icons. You can find these icons on icons8.com. I'll make sure to include the link in the description. Now let's go into our interface controller.m file. Now we will assign values to the two properties we just created. In this array with objects. And over here, we will include the names of the icons that we want to put in this array. So broccoli, png, now similarly for the vegetables array, we will put in the name of the vegetables that we just included. So now we will go into our will activate method and set the properties for the table. So self.table set number of rows. Now for the number of rows, we will use the count of the objects in these arrays. So self.vegetables count. And for the row type, we will include the identifier for the table row controller. So table row controller, just like we put it in the attributes inspector. So over here, now we will populate the table with the values from these arrays. Now before you do that, make sure that you have imported the table row controller.h file into the interface controller.m file. Once you've done that, we will use a loop to populate the table. So for int I equals 0, I less than self dot vegetables count I plus plus. Now we will make an object for the table row controller. So table row controller, and let's call it row controller. Now we will assign this object the value of the current row controller object. So self.table row controller at index I. Now we will assign the objects of this row controller values from these two arrays. So for that, we will make two NSStrings. So NSString icons self.icon object at index I. Similarly for vegetable we will call self.vegetables object and index I. Now we will set the object in the row controller according to these two in a string. So row controller dot vegetable image set image, and we will use the property called set image name and set it to icons. Now for the row controller dot vegetable label, we will set the text to the value inside the vegetable in a string. Now let's hit run. Now you see the table has been populated just like we wanted it to, but the icons seem a little bigger. So let's change that. Let's resize the icons. So go into your interface storyboard and select the image. Now we will change the size of the image to fixed, and let's set it 40 by 40, and let's run it again. Now you see the icons are of the correct size, and it displays the labels from the arrays just like you wanted it to. Now you can add as many values to this table as you want, like I've done here, just by adding the values to the icons and vegetables properties.